Hey, welcome to my channel. My name is Ashley and I'm a six-figure reseller on Poshmark and eBay. Today I'm talking about 8 brands that I do not try to seek out anymore when I'm sourcing to resell for profit. And I will put a disclaimer that just because I am saying these brands doesn't mean that you should absolutely never pick them up. All of these brands do probably have a specific style or anything like that that is very rare or desirable that makes it an item that you should pick up. However, I'm putting these brands out here because these are all brands that I used to really love to pick up before. It didn't take too much extra second thought of it. However, nowadays it really takes that one specific item that makes it worth it to resell. And some of these items are going to be items that I just don't pick up anymore when I'm looking at paying more for an item. However, I would still pick up at like a thrift store, and some of these items are items that even at a thrift store I'm still pretty worried about or may not pick up. So I'll go ahead and talk about that depending on each brand, but just wanted to put that disclaimer out there to make sure that you are doing your research on an item, and that just because I'm saying him here does not mean that you should completely cross them off your list. Usually there should never ever be a brand that you cross off your list completely. It's pretty rare because sometimes every single brand has that one item that is doing really well. So I'm going to start off with the brand Lululemon. I'm starting off with this brand because in my video 2 weeks ago, I talked about how that is how I first started reselling. And so that is why it is such a big disappointment that it has gone such downhill on the secondhand markets. I used to be able to pick it up for, like $30 and easily flip it for like $60, $70 and make a really quick, easy $30 profit. But now the items just are not selling for as well as they used to. They've just gotten way more overly saturated and people are able to find them at a lot cheaper prices. So it's not as easy to resell. Even the really desired items like the lines and like the all the right places, which I used to sell so much of, I really won't pay over like $20 for anymore. Like on my Poshmark, I used to sell those items, like especially even the rare ones, for like over $100, and now I'm looking at more likely like a $70 to $80 sale for those items. So that's why I probably wouldn't pay more than $20. Lululemon does have some really rare items that are out there, like the quiet stripes, I think that's what it's called, and some of the reflective seaweeds items. However, those are very rare and I would pay more for those. However, overall in general, I really don't like search for Lululemon while they're online. I never really stop by, and I kind of will like stop by the Lululemon section of like the buy sell trade stores, but I pretty much never pick items up from there unless they are those rare items like I just mentioned. However, at the thrift store, I probably would pay for Lululemons. It's just hard because a lot of times they are marked up for so expensive. I really don't pick up much of the bras or tank tops, which if you are more of like a quantity model, then it's still probably really good to pick up for just for the profits I want. It's not really worth it. If anything, I'll pick up probably just like leggings and jackets if they're under $10. So the next brand I used to love to source was Rothy's. However, I don't really source Rothy's anymore. They do still have some really rare styles. However, even the rare styles aren't really that rare anymore, and you have to be like really up there and high and desirable. The reason why I have them in this video is because a lot of times where I find them, they're just really expensive, like at least like $50, and even nowadays they're just even more closer to like $60, $70. And so with the way that the prices have increased and on the secondhand platforms they have decreased, it's really just not worth it to resell. If I did find these at a thrift store, I would 100% pick them up. But when it comes to paying more for items, this is not a brand that I necessarily get super excited about finding because I know that the price is gonna be really high and the comps are gonna be really low. The next brand is Lovers Plus Friends, and this is a Revolve brand. I used to pick this item up all the time at the thrift stores. I've never really like paid a lot of money for it. This would be a brand at a thrift store that I would come across every so often, and I would pretty much always pick it up if it was like a dress or whatnot, because those are the styles that used to do really well. However, even now it is one of those Revolve brands that just aren't anywhere close to the retail price anymore. They're usually around like the $25, $30 range, and just with like the thrift store prices, even unless I would find it maybe at the bins, like $8 for a dress selling for $25, just not within the profit I want to make for my business. And so that is why I no longer even pick this up at like a thrift store. I haven't done a deep dive into Lovers Plus Friends in terms of any higher comps, but they may have specific styles out there, any kind of like more formal maxis maybe. Like I said, I have not looked into it, but that is why I would not 100% cross off my list, but just in general, from what I used to find and what I am selling now, it's not an item that I really pick up anymore. The next brand is Moth, and this goes twofold in terms of picking up at the thrift and also paying more for an item. Usually when it comes to Moth, their cardigans and their sweaters will do really well. So they do have still some sweaters out there that can be really good. And so at the thrift store, unless it's like super cheap and a very good style, I would probably pick it up, but otherwise not. And then in terms of paying more for an item, because a lot of those rare styles I probably would pay more for aren't this what they used to be, and they are more saturated. They're not, rare anymore. People can get them for whatever price. Then that is why I don't really pay much for it. Again, there still can be some really great styles of Moth to pay attention to and to be familiar with, but for generalizing, it's not something that I get like super excited to pick up. It has to be like a very, very good item. So the next brand is Ultracore, and this is an athletic brand. I used to pay more for this item. Their leggings specifically, like the lightning bolts and things like that, used to sell for like decently over 100, not like crazy, but enough where I can maybe pay a little bit more for them. However, the comps have decreased a little bit, similar to Lululemon, where it's like closer between like 50 and 70. And so I would pick this up at a thrift store. However, I don't pick it up if I'm paying too much for it, just because prices have increased and the comps have decreased. And that little margin profit there just isn't what I want it to be anymore. So that is why I no longer pick it up unless I can find it pretty cheap. I actually did, now that I'm saying it, I do have an item I have to photograph. That is Ultracore, but that's because I got it as a set and it was almost similar to like a thrift store price together. So that's why I picked it up. That's why I'm saying here that you should not just cross off your list completely. I still might be sourcing these items, but I'm putting it overall. Generally, they're just not what they used to be. The next brand is Wildfox. I used to look for Wildfox like on online sourcing platforms and really look for a lot of like their jumper sweaters and such, because they used to have a ton of really great styles that people were looking for. However, now their really great styles have decreased and there's not as many out there. If anything, I usually will look for like their Barbie styles, which I think are still popular, but overall, a lot of their jumpers just aren't as popular as they used to be. Different stores like Ross and TJ Maxx have started selling them, so their saturation has increased, and then their comps in terms of what people are selling them for have decreased. There's just too much cheaper competition out there to be able to sell it for more. I would still maybe pick it up at a thrift store if it was a great style, but even at a thrift store, I usually pass on it if it's more of a basic sweater or anything else. Usually I'm talking about the sweaters because everything else usually isn't amazing unless it's like maybe a jacket. However, it'd have to be a great style and cheap, because still a lot of Wildfox will sell for between like $25 and $35. That just leaves you maybe for picking up at the bins. The next brand is Yumi Kim, and I used to love picking up this brand. I used to find it all the time at the thrift stores here in Dallas, and it's still probably pretty common to come across. And I used to love picking up the dresses and the rompers, and because I was selling them so well from thrift store prices, I started to pay attention to paying more, even if I found them online or in person for more expensive. However, I did start to pay more for them and then realized that it's gone down, and I still have some, I think I have one or two pieces that I paid like probably like $30 for that I just cannot sell for what I want to get for it, like over $100. So because of the history I have within my closet, I would not pay more for it, and I usually don't even pay for it at a thrift store. I honestly have, I think like 2 blouses I'm trying to sell to like the buy sell trade store, and like the buy sell trade stores won't even take it. So that's a little bit concerning and why I don't really pick it up anymore, because my last resort of sending it to a buy sell trade store, I'm not even able to do that. And sadly, the last brand here is Ace and Jig. I used to really love seeking out Ace and Jig, especially for online sourcing or consignment stores, because even when paying more money for it, it still could yield a good profit. However, a lot of the styles just aren't doing as well as they used to. They really do still have some of their really good styles out there. However, the amount I probably would be willing to pay for it has decreased. Of course, would definitely pick it up at a thrift store, even if it was a price a little bit higher at a thrift store. But in terms of what their prices are nowadays, especially since a lot of even companies know about it, a lot of people know about it, a lot of the times it's not priced cheaply like it used to be before, which is really sad, because I think about kind of very close to when I first started paying a lot more for items and selling items. I had found this dress and sold it for like $350, I think. So I have Ace and Jig really close to my heart, because it's one of the brands that really got me going into being able to flip things for a high amount really quickly. But you know, I have a ton of other new brands on my list, so they always come and go. If you have any thoughts on these brands, feel free to leave them in the comments. If you have any questions, send me a DM on my Instagram at ReCloth Collection. Be sure to check out my website as well for any tools and resources with reselling to help level up your game. That is reclothcollection.com. And lastly, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. I put out videos every single Wednesday, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.